The National Park Service is very excited to partner with the National Capital Planning Commission and the Van Allen Institute to imagine what the future might hold for memorials here in Washington, D.C.
Whether linking local places to national issues, using new technology, or recognizing more voices in the American experience, this competition provided amazing ideas that expanded our understanding of what the Capitol's commemorative landscape might include in the 21st century.
In Memorials of the Future, we had 89 teams that represented 8 countries and 309 participants. How can memorials not only tell you stories about the past, but very importantly, how can those stories still be relevant in the future? And perhaps can they even tell stories about what the future is going to be like? But I also hope that they're going to inspire organizers for future memorials to think beyond the status quo, to not only think about representing one person in a memorial, but representing community groups or representing some of the big ideas that we as a society need to be struggling through in the coming decades. The first proposal is the American Wild, and they're looking at the infrastructure system here in the city, but using one of the most exciting things of the US, your beautiful landscapes in the national parks.
We were inspired by the centennial of the National Park Service and the role that representation, including landscape painting and photography, played in their preservation and establishment. And now, given climate change and other factors regarding the maintenance of the parks in the coming 100 years, we're really excited to be part of the dialogue about what representations contribute to their future.
The aspect of the project that we love is the juxtaposition of the natural landscapes and the distinct architectural features of the DC Metro.
Memorials can become a call to action, that they can be created and transformed in the moment to address kind of what matters to our nation.
Looking at stories of migration, immigration, and what it means to make a new home in a new environment.
So the immigrant is really about the elemental experience of movement, arrival, and making a new home. By commemorating and sharing the varied journeys that our parents, friends, and strangers have taken throughout the landscape of America, and really honoring these journeys and struggles towards opportunity and freedom.
The stories collected are shared through this mobile memorial using the existing infrastructure of DC's bus routes as sort of the method of experiencing movement, arrival, and the making of a new home through traveling on the bus and listening to the collected stories.
We definitely hope that people experience the temporary art installations that will be at the bus shelters along the route.
From the beginning, I think the community engagement piece was a core part of our project in the way that we would want to engage the local neighborhoods that are selected and getting those local stories about migration and immigration. The inspiration came from, a personal history for each of us, but it is an experience that's reflected among millions of people that live here.
And what we're looking at here is the existing memorials in the city. How can you overlay a new narrative around these?
Our proposal is for a system, not a memorial from the ground up, called an overlay system, which takes stories from the public about memorials and delivers them on site of those memorials through a roving flock of mechanical pink parrots. They collect and hover 20-ish or so feet above a site, signaling the start of an event. One by one, parrots take turns, dropping to be audible at street level, telling the story in the words and the voice of the original author to a collected crowd at that site.
What we're interested in is the power of the voice to make space and invoking that making of space through the hovering of these pink parrots, so that you're actually immersed in a vocalic space of storytelling. We're trying to offer up diverse, potentially dissenting opinions and stories that sort of counteract the master narratives and the kind of settled history of the monuments.
A proposal in which we're looking at a cherry grove blooming once a year in a very poetic manner, show climate change happening.
Climate Chronograph is it's a living observatory for sea level rise. As water incrementally floods upon them, cherry trees die in place. Essentially, the memorial commemorates the aftermath of the present.
The way that this memorial works is it unfolds through time. And we think that that's a really interesting departure from traditional memorialization. And this unfolds in an intergenerational way, where a mother and a child come, they see something, they interact. The child returns in 8th grade, the child maybe comes back for a protest later in their life, and then ultimately the child and her son or daughter comes back in the next round, and that cycle would continue. Important to this site was the activities that were already there, and so leaving things like picnic tables might be a strange thing to do for mini memorials. All the cultural significance that's there already, we want to continue to embrace.